I think we can all agree that Deadpool and Wolverine is easily one of the best Marvel movies we've gotten in the last couple years, and it personally has me really excited to see his next movie in the MCU, whether that's Deadpool 4 or Deadpool and Wolverine 2, but we barely scratched the surface of Deadpool's story, so here is how Deadpool 4 can be the perfect MCU movie. We need that Deadpool and Spider-Man team-up movie so badly, and the next Deadpool film is the perfect time to do it. These two would be incredible on screen. They're both really funny characters, and their MCU versions are great, and I think their humor would clash perfectly. Because I think the combination of Deadpool's way more R-rated humor with Tom Holland's Spider-Man way more like PG-rated humor would work perfectly. I feel like these two would have great on-screen chemistry. Whether it's just Deadpool and Spider-Man or Deadpool, Wolverine, and Spider-Man, I would honestly take either of these. It could be incredible. They could give us like a new golden trio of the MCU if they give us these three, and I think they'd work perfectly together because they're all kind of similar in a way that they don't really have a team anymore. Obviously, none of the Avengers know who Spider-Man is. Deadpool so desperately wants to be a part of the Avengers, and Wolverine's whole thing is that he never wanted to be a part of the X-Men. Obviously, this version was in the X-Men, but now he's kind of separated from all that and on his own only with Deadpool. Not only do I think this would easily just be one of the funniest Marvel movies ever made, getting all three of these in a film together, it's also just simple for Disney to make this decision because look at the box office for Deadpool Wolverine making $1.3 billion being R-rated, and Spider-Man No Way Home making $1.9 billion. Spider-Man Far From Home also made over $1 billion. I honestly don't think it's crazy to say that these three, being some of the most popular Marvel characters there are right now, being in one film could honestly push close to $2 billion at the box office and be absolutely massive. This would just take over the internet for months. No movie's complete without a great villain though, so I'm gonna go over a bunch of options for a few villains I'd like to see in the movie. This doesn't mean I want all of these, just pick one of them Marvel and I'd be happy. The first one up is Death, now that we have her canonically into the MCU from Agatha all along. If you didn't know, yeah, Deadpool and Death actually have a pretty long running romance in the comics, and these two are kind of head over heels over each other. The complication is that Thanos is also in love with Death and steps in a lot to try to stop Deadpool from ever being with her. But it's kind of a shame that Thanos is already done and gone in the MCU before they ever introduce Death, because she is such a huge part of his character and his motivations in the comics, but they could still recover a little bit by adding Deadpool and Death storyline. The two have this understanding of each other that really nobody else could have with them, because obviously Death is the personification of death itself, and Deadpool can never die, and they both kind of want what the other one has. I'm sorry, just like I was saying I would love to see Tom Holland and Ryan Reynolds team up, you're telling me seeing a movie with Ryan Reynolds starring in it where Aubrey Plaza is the villain but they end up falling for each other wouldn't be an absolute banger? I'm sorry, it would be. One of the endings of Deadpool's story in the comics is literally him becoming the king of hell, ending up with Death and torturing Mephisto for all of eternity. I don't think that should happen in Deadpool 4, but you're telling me if that was the end of MCU Deadpool's story, that wouldn't be absolutely amazing to witness? It would just be so fitting for him to literally become the king of hell. That would be such a dope ending. If they don't do Death, I think Madcap would be another incredible villain to see. He's pretty much this nihilist that doesn't believe in anything, and because of that, he can match Deadpool's craziness pretty much one for one, or even be wilder than him. And his powers are essentially just like Deadpool's, but a little bit crazier, because he really doesn't even feel pain. He can put himself back together. He doesn't pretty much die ever. But he has one true power that makes him really unique as a villain, is that he can actually pass his madness on to others, and in the comics at one point he actually like possesses the mind of Deadpool and infects him. There's really just limitless possibilities for what they could get into if they made Madcap the villain of the next Deadpool film, and I honestly would really love to see this. It would be such a unique character on screen, kind of a perfect counterpart to Deadpool himself. Another villain I'd love to see show up in the movie, maybe as just a smaller character or more of a gag at the beginning of the film, is Marcus, the Gladiator, Centaur, Werewolf, Symbiote Warrior. And if you can't tell by that name, yeah, he's kind of played off as just a pure joke. Now this is actually a super powerful character, and getting to see another symbiote character besides like Venom in the MCU at some point would be really cool, especially if Spider-Man is in the next Deadpool film. You're wondering why he's like played off as a joke, and he's literally described by Dracula himself as having no weaknesses. There is one staggering weakness he has that comes out in a fight against Deadpool, because he literally calls a timeout to check his blood sugar and finds out that he's diabetic in the middle of a fight with Deadpool and starts opening up about his insecurities to him. And he has this like moment where he's super worried about losing his hoofs, so Deadpool responds in the only way he would and literally cuts them off, resulting in him getting prosthetics later on. And yeah, this is an insane storyline. You can't tell me this wouldn't would fit in so perfectly with this version of Deadpool that we have and be an incredible gag. Like I said, even if it's just like a little fight at the beginning of a movie as like a cold open, this would be a hilarious scene to see, and I really hope they do it. Another thing I need this movie to do to be perfect is to be truly in the MCU and in a real location, preferably, like, I don't care, just pick some random city or place, put them in New York or San Francisco or something. In my opinion, one of the weakest parts of Deadpool Wolverine, which like I said, I do really love as a movie overall, is that most of it takes place in the void, which is just nothingness. Like, there's no real characteristics to it. It's kind of boring and bland to look at. This is another little point I have about this movie, is I want it to be a lot more vibrant and colorful visually, because again, the other one mixed with the void and just the color grading of the film, it does look kind of dull. So I think this movie needs a lot more life to it, because it just makes sense. Pretty much everything else about the films are so vibrant, full of life, and hilarious, and then the visuals of them themselves are pretty dull. This one might sound like a smaller detail, but it's such a huge part of what made Deadpool, Wolverine, and so many other superheroes movies work so well, is that the soundtrack needs to be as great as what they found for Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not exaggerating when I say if this movie didn't have the bye 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 intro sequence and the like a prayer scenes in it, it would not be half as good. Those are only two of the songs. Literally all these songs are used in such great and hilarious moments in the movie that make them so memorable, and it's such an underrated part of making a superhero movie. So many of them don't even use pop music in any way, shape, or form. Think of some of the best superhero movies we've gotten in this decade so far. The music is so much a part of what makes them so special. Obviously, you have an amazing playlist curated for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and the Spider-Verse films going out and actually making their own soundtrack, but both of them elevate the movie so much. I also think we finally need that Kevin Feige cameo to happen in the MCU, and hopefully it's as himself in Deadpool 4, a scene of Deadpool literally like going into his office or something. I'll leave it up to your imagination of what would happen in this scene, but it would be absolutely hilarious, man. Opinion, to see this. This one might be a little controversial, but I personally don't want to see any of the cameos from Deadpool and Wolverine, such as Blade, Elektra, X-23, or Gambit, come back in the next Deadpool film. Listen, they were absolutely hilarious in Deadpool and Wolverine. It was great to see them all return as these characters. But I think it works perfectly as them being contained to this film. They came back as these beloved characters, and they got a brand new send-off that, in my opinion, was pretty perfect for all of these characters. I guess if I had to make one exception, I would be okay with X-23 returning in the future of the MCU, but preferably not in Deadpool 4, in my opinion. Like I said, I think Deadpool, Wolverine, and Spider-Man should be the next focus if we have a team-up movie again. Leave the other characters alone, and you can let X-23 bounce around with the other characters, but honestly, even her probably shouldn't really come back, because we're going to be getting a brand new set of X-Men after the Avengers Secret Wars with the mutant saga, so I think they're better left just kind of alone. I'm sure they wouldn't change it, but what might be the most important thing on the list is do not change the rating from an R rating, especially if they do add characters like Spider-Man. It's going to be very tempting for them to make it PG-13, because Spider-Man is such a beloved character for younger audiences. But Deadpool and Wolverine proved you can make a ton of money with an R-rated film. Do not just water it down. The audience will go and see it no matter what. But with all that being said, let me know your thoughts on everything I said in this video. Do you agree with me, disagree, and anything else that I didn't mention that you would love to see happen in the next Deadpool film? And make sure to click down below to check out my playlist where I go over things that would ruin or make perfect future superhero movies. I covered Spider-Man 4, Beyond the Spider-Verse, Avengers Doomsday, The Fantastic Four, Captain America 4, Superman, so many movies down there, so check out that playlist.